There is a kind of immaturity that is not about age. A woman may be adult in body, yes, capable, accomplished, independent, and yet emotionally or psychologically remain in patterns formed long ago. Carl Jung described parts of the psyche that, when unintegrated, trap people in cycles of reactivity, dependency, and resistance. Female immaturity is not childishness in a trivial sense, but a wound that remains unhealed, a set of unconscious patterns that keep a woman living in half-formed identity, rather than full individuation. Jung believed that every woman carries within her a masculine interior, called the animus. The animus is not merely about strength or aggression. It represents reason, clarity, autonomy, assertiveness, purpose. When the animus is not developed or is possessed by cultural or parental expectations, a woman may unconsciously allow others to define her, avoid making decisions, or remain emotionally dependent. Immaturity arises when parts of that interior masculine remain unconscious or underdeveloped, so the woman acts from external validation instead of inner authority. In that immature pattern, decision-making becomes difficult. Choices feel overwhelming. She may delay commitments, fear responsibility, or feel the need for constant affirmation from others. The world seems vast and threatening rather than inviting. Every commitment feels like a threat, every decision like a trap. The psyche is still waiting for external permission rather than acting from inner conviction. That is the hallmark of immaturity. Not lack of capacity, but lack of integration. Part of this stems from early psychological conditioning. Many women are taught from childhood to please others, to sacrifice their needs, to suppress ambition or assertiveness. They are encouraged to remain gentle, agreeable, always yielding. These teachings become part of the persona, the social mask. But the suppressed qualities go into the shadow. Ambition, assertiveness, logical reasoning, independence, all go underground. The woman may grow older, but those parts stay exiled, unrecognized. That means part of her life remains stuck in earlier developmental stages. Jung said that the greater part of psychological suffering comes from what is unconscious, not from what is consciously rejected. The animus, when undeveloped, may be projected outward on men or authority figures. She may see a partner or mentor as someone who must think for her, decide for her, protect her. This projection becomes a kind of emotional dependency. She gives away her power unconsciously, believing that someone else must carry it. When the animus is unconscious, it has power over her rather than being a tool within her. This unconscious projection can show up in relationships as idealization. She may look for someone who embodies the masculine qualities she lacks: decisiveness, reasoning, leadership. That person becomes not just a partner, but a guardian, a decision maker, a validation source. But no one human can truly carry the parts of your soul that you haven't owned. Eventually, disappointment follows. The partner cannot fulfill all those projected expectations. The woman realizes that what she sought externally was always inside. But that realization can be painful. It feels like betrayal, not just by others, but by herself. Immaturity also expresses itself in emotional reactivity. When one suppresses assertiveness or boundaries, frustration builds. Minor conflicts trigger disproportionate emotional responses. A woman may react with anger, tears, or guilt because the suppressed parts are demanding expression. The more she suppresses, the stronger the reaction will be when the pressure bursts. That emotional volatility is often misjudged as weakness. In truth, it is the voice of parts that have been silenced for too long. Another expression is lack of self-identity. Without integrating the animus, a woman may struggle to know who she is independent of external roles. Daughter, partner, caregiver. She may change jobs or relationships frequently, always seeking something that feels stable. She may feel empty, lost, or uncertain in solitude. The immature psyche avoids solitude because solitude demands one to face one's own unconscious. In telling words of Jung, solitude is the place where the unconscious speaks. Avoidance means the unconscious remains trapped. But immaturity is not all negative. It carries potential. The same parts that have been suppressed, ambition, clarity, independence, also contain creative power, purpose, and growth. The immature woman may have dreams, longings, and sensitivities that have not yet been empowered. When those parts are integrated, they transform into maturity. Ambition becomes direction. Dependence becomes collaboration. Emotional sensitivity becomes wisdom. The journey is not to deny immaturity, but to transform it. This transformation is part of what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. For a woman, individuation means integrating both the feminine conscious aspects and the masculine interior animus, as well as the shadow. It means reclaiming suppressed potentials and becoming a fuller version of oneself. Maturity is not about conforming to external roles. It is about owning every part of one's psyche and acting from authenticity. One of the first steps in overcoming immaturity is to strengthen the animus. This means developing reason, logical thinking, clarity of purpose. It means making decisions from inner authority rather than waiting for someone else. It means risking mistakes, learning from them, and trusting one's own mind. When the animus becomes conscious, it becomes a partner rather than a projection. It provides structure and direction rather than confusion and dependence. A second step is working on boundaries. When a woman has been conditioned to please, she may struggle to say no or to set limits. She may feel guilty for asserting her needs. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for maturity. Boundaries allow the psyche to distinguish between self-worth and others' approval. When boundaries are honored, emotional energy is preserved rather than drained by reactive dependence. Dream work is also powerful in confronting immaturity. Jung placed great value on dreams as communications from the unconscious. Recurring dreams about being lost, chaotic spaces, or needing someone else to rescue you may be symbolic messages that the psyche is asking for integration. Listening to those dreams, exploring symbols of masculine or authority figures in dreams, can reveal how the animus is manifesting or being avoided. That inner work helps consciousness to expand and gives maturity a foundation. Another aspect is confronting cultural narratives. Society often romanticizes immaturity in women, youth, dependency, cuteness, being rescued. Popular culture reinforces the idea that feminine virtue is gentleness, softness, and always being cared for. That message can trap women in emotional adolescence, where maintaining innocence or dependency feels rewarded. Jungian work encourages women to question these narratives. Are you performing them unconsciously? Are you hiding behind them because they feel comfortable or because they limit growth? As awareness grows, the timeline of life shifts. What once felt impossible, making decisions independently, pursuing purpose, or holding boundaries, begins to feel possible. The woman begins to live from her own center rather than from external expectation. Her ambitions no longer feel like guilt or shame, but like expression. Her emotions no longer feel overwhelming or chaotic, but like information to guide her. This shift is not abrupt, it is gradual. It involves facing fears, making mistakes, and integrating the unlived life. In relationships, this maturity changes dynamics. Instead of looking for someone to rescue her, a mature woman meets a partner as an equal. Instead of projecting unmet parts onto others, she engages in mutual growth. Emotional reactions soften because she holds space for her own needs. She no longer seeks validation to feel worthy. Her worth is internal. The relationship becomes a collaboration rather than a lifeline. That doesn't eliminate conflict, but it changes its nature. Conflict becomes growth rather than chaos. Even success and ambition take on new meaning. Where immaturity might make ambition feel like guilt or fear of failure, maturity transforms ambition into purpose. Projects are no longer procrastinated. They are pursued with clarity and integrity. A woman trusts herself, speaks her mind, and lets life follow. The immature psyche may see failure as confirmation of incapability. The mature psyche sees failure as feedback. That shift in perspective is deeply liberating. But integration is ongoing. The unconscious doesn't just disappear because maturity is embraced. New life phases bring new shadows. Midlife, aging, changes in roles, loss, all stir the unconscious again. A mature woman continues to dialogue with the animus, to listen, to grow. That is part of psychological wholeness, to remain open to inner transformation throughout life. Maturity is dynamic, not a fixed state. The psychological cost of refusing this path is high. Unresolved immaturity can lead to emotional burnout, codependency, identity crises, relational failures, and unfulfilled potential. Women might blame external factors, partners, roles, society, but the deeper wound lies inside. Until the animus is integrated, external conditions won't bring inner peace. No amount of external love, success, or validation can fill the gap left by suppressed potentials. At its heart, female immaturity is an invitation. It invites you to reflect, to awaken, to reclaim. It is not a condemnation. It is a signal from the unconscious that something needs healing. The patterns of dependency, indecision, emotional overwhelm, or unrealistic idealizations are not flaws. They are messages from parts of the psyche waiting to be integrated. In the work of the psyche, maturity is not about giving up femininity or softness. It is about owning every part of yourself, the caring, the intuition, the emotional depth, alongside the strength, clarity, decision, and sovereignty that the animus offers. To do so is not to betray femininity. It is to complete it. It is to become whole. In that wholeness lies freedom. So if you recognize aspects of immaturity in yourself, indecision, dependency, patterns of waiting for rescue, or emotional instability, know this: those are not signs of failure. They are signposts on a path of growth. They are parts of you longing for recognition. Begin the work gently. Ask yourself, where am I still waiting for someone to speak for me? Where do I avoid making decisions? Which relationships echo patterns from my early life? These questions open the door to integration. As Carl Jung taught, the process of individuation is the lifelong journey of becoming your true self. It requires courage, self-reflection, and willingness to see all parts of your psyche. Immaturity is not a failure of time. It is a failure of awareness. When awareness grows, immaturity gives way to maturity. And that maturity becomes not a limitation, but a gift, a full expression of all that you are. You become not just a woman of soft vulnerability, but of grounded power, not just someone who receives care, but someone who gives care from strength. Not just a receiver of life, but an active creator of it. That is female maturity. That is wholeness.